All right, so Sage is just going to do a solo review there, and I'll chime in a little bit because I've played this game before, but it's been years. I haven't played this game in over a decade there. But this is the Punisher 2005 video game. In this game here, came by THQ, was developed by Volton and published by THQ there.
And Volition is also the studio that people might know. They did like the Saints Row games.
The Saints Row. Okay, nice there. And this game came out on PlayStation 2, Xbox there as well, where you play. And they did a lot of these superhero games early 2000s. Blade had one there as well. So yeah, and did this count as a movie tie-in game because it was like a year later?
It does a little bit, and I'll tell you how. There's two small things. There's a brief. It's like one level, but the neighbor Joan, that's like an original character in that movie, gets kidnapped, and you have to save her. And that's kind of brief. It's less of a direct connection. But the main villain of this game ultimately is another version of Jigsaw, but Jigsaw, it's not Billy Russo, who is, that's who Jigsaw is. It is actually a different character, and I have that written down here. John Saint, which is the son of the family in the Tom Jane movie that he like blows up. Like he puts dynamite on him and he's like, don't move or you'll explode or whatever. And I think because there was almost a sequel to that movie, and I think that this is using the idea that son of John Travolta's would have come back to be Jigsaw in the next film. And so this game's of Jigsaw is supposed to have been that movie was supposed to have happened, and then that son is the Jigsaw. That's the villain.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's interesting there. And you played it on Xbox there.
Yes.
So you did have that there with this. And you mentioned Thomas Jane, who returned, so he does the voice of.
He nails it too. Like I can't imagine a more perfect voice for this character.
Let's see, the interrogation scenes, that'd probably be a best way to hear his voice, right? When he does like the
yeah.
Let me see if I can play some of these there, and I do remember these.
And what's funny about this is, during a lot of these, it feels like Punisher's like trying out like stand-up comedy material. He does like an absurd number of one-liners.
Let's see.
Hey, okay, let me go. I can talk to the guys in 2B for you.
Let's see.
A lot of damage. Talk or die damage.
Whoa! Go ahead and kill.
I can't really hear it.
You ain't got nothing on.
Oh, you can't hear it? Oh, let's see.
On me.
I got a call saying you'd show tonight. I don't know who it was.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of basically like interrogating them, trying to get information out of them, so they can lead you to other things in the game there.
And that's a really cool like execution mechanics. It's a lot of fun, but it almost got the game an adults only rating, to where like you wouldn't have been able to put it on the Xbox, the PlayStation, or sell it in like retail stores. Because like if a game has an AO rating, like it usually means you can't really sell it commercially, and they got around it by like when you actually do the execution, it sort of the camera kind of pulls closer onto Punisher's face, and it also kind of goes black and white for a moment, so like the really intense blood splatter isn't quite shown. And so there are like there's like you can get like mods on PC to have like uncensored, like so you can see kind of the full thing. But yeah, that very nearly got the game like such a high rating that they wouldn't have even really been able to sell it. But it's a great mechanic. Not only does it work for like main story stuff to tell you where to go, but you can often get like bonus weapons or like a cache of like health and ammo and stuff. It's a really, really fun mechanic. And a lot of the game, the way it plays, it feels sort of like it's taking the feel of Max Payne, which was, only a few years old at this point. But it feels like it's taken that structure, adds the execution stuff on it, gives you sort of like a rage mode where you can do like some 1-hit kills. It's a simple gameplay loop really, but it works really well and it feels very consistently satisfying.
Mm. And I see it come maybe recreate some scenes in the movie because I see you fight the Russian in this as well.
Well, and that's pretty much recreating a scene from the Garth Ennis comics, and the movie just did a very good job of. And so the game and the movie sort of have it in common, but that's just them both being faithful to the book.
Okay, gotcha. There,
it's a great boss fight though, and you basically it's sort of almost like the Mr. Freeze boss fight in Batman Arkham City, where it's like each sort of you have to sort of like get on top of them and get them into an appliance, use that appliance to hurt them, but you can like only use each thing one time because it breaks by the end. So in a way, it sort of has a feel to that fight.
Gotcha. Yeah, so this seems pretty fun there.
And this game has a few, talking about like the movie just now, like, oh, it doesn't really have a lot of comic tie-ins or other characters. This game's got a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's a whole level where you're investigating Russian shipments of drugs on the docks, and Black Widow is like a NPC that is partnering with you for an entire area. They do the same thing with Nick Fury at one point in the game. You get a few Daredevil references, and he even kind of comes in as Frank's lawyer at one point. And Iron, there's a great whole level that is like this Yakuza gang is doing like a raid on to steal stuff from a Stark Industries building, and so it's like a whole sort of Iron Man themed level, and you can use some of like the industrial tools to do the executions. That's super cool, and you do get a brief little appearance by Iron Man as well. But largely the narrative here, it's being framed so it starts off with him getting arrested, and then it's sort of the whole game is framed as him being interrogated by the police, and then they're sort of talking about his crimes going back the last couple of weeks in a row, and it sort of builds up to him, he's been kind of hunting Jigsaw this whole time and going through all these like connections and stuff, and like how this crime syndicate works, and there's like a Fisk Kingpin whole tower, and like I said, he's trying out stand-up material while he's killing people. Like second level is like a chop shop, and it's literally a guy, you like shove his face into a grindstone, and again it doesn't quite show it, but his whole face gets like peeled off by this thing, and he's narrating it in his head. It's not like he says this out loud to like a character that can hear him. He just in his head goes, he was a good worker, kept his nose to the grindstone. And he keeps doing that. He does it throughout a whole bunch of the levels. Like, and you do a whole with the Kingpin level, there's a whole Bullseye boss fight, which is really cool. But you beat Bullseye, and Frank throws Bullseye out of a window, and you're in like a skyscraper. He throws him like probably 50 stories down. And then when you get into the office, and Kingpin's like, "What, are you gonna throw me out a window too, Frank?" And he goes, "No, I'd have to roll you."
Yeah, so this is the scene with Daredevil here. So it's Matt Murdock. We got right there.
Right there. Anything my client has said without his attorney present.
Is that Nolan North?
It might be.
Okay, that sounds like Nolan North. Let me hold it. Can you hear it? Or
oh yeah, I can hear this one.
Okay.
Hold it right there. Anything my client has said without his attorney present is inadmissible.
Oh
Mr.
no,
Castle.
I think that's Stephen Bloom. I think
it does sound like Steve Bloom. Yeah, I think you're right.
Don't say another word.
Too late, Murdoch. Go home.
Mr. Castle, as your attorney, I
don't need a lawyer. You're fired.
Mr. Castle, this is very ill-advised.
Objection noted and overruled.
It's like, that's not how any of those terms are used, but okay.
Well, nice of him to stop by.
Interesting there. Yeah. Wow. This boss fight with Bullseye scene, you jumping all around and shit like that.
Yeah, it's a super fun boss fight.
So you have that, and you know who voices Bullseye?
Yeah, that I'm not sure.
Yeah. Wow. They're just jumping there. Okay, and you just got this flamethrower there. Okay. Wow. Nice. Okay, so that's pretty decent. I mean, obviously, limited at the time graphically and some of the stuff there at the time.
But for 2005, it looks solid.
Yeah.
And that's
also,
your sort of rage mode you can activate, where you basically no guns. It's like all knives, and it's like it slowly regenerates your health as long as it lasts, and like regular enemies, you can do like instant like execution moves on them.
Okay, nice there. And it's funny, Kingpin in this. I mean, just from these screen, I mean, he does look a lot like Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah,
Um,
well, Vincent D'Onofrio looks a lot like just the comic character, honestly.
yeah, so that looks pretty much the same. Yeah, that works really well. Very awesome there. But yeah, so they put a lot of Marvel cameo. You mentioned you had the Avengers, so you had the Iron Man, Nick Fury there, Black Widow.
And even
Uh,
just pulling from just Punisher comics, I mean, the whole sort of first portion of the game is dealing with like the Nucci crime family, which is a specific crime family from the Garth Ennis comics. It might even be in some non-Garth Ennis comics too. I just know them specifically from his. But yeah, it's I mean a whole Italian crime family, and you deal with like their specific characters that I remember from the book. Are sort of the boss fights throughout a couple of levels, and then that sort of dovetails into like, oh, they were also working with this group, and then that group was also working with Kingpin, and then but Jigsaw was really funding it kind of behind the scenes, and it's sort of a crime family conspiracy, but like it's actually like it plays out interesting. Like the narrative is actually, I think, fairly solid here, and it feels very true to Garth Ennis. It feels like it's specifically taking from a lot of Garth Ennis books, and I think that's also where Punisher being sort of funny, having sort of some weird like post-kill one-liners throughout the game. It sort of feels like it's coming in tone with the Garth Ennis comics version of the Punisher.
okay, so does he have a more like kind of dry kind of sense of humor? Okay,
Sometimes I think a lot of the Garth Ennis comics, he's a little bit more of like the silent Terminator sort of version. But he's got some, some lines here and there that you could say are more humorous, and like a lot of Garth Ennis stuff, like his Hellblazer or his, Preacher comics. It's like it's so grotesque and degenerate and disgusting and just over the top, and how awful everything is, that the Punisher, like when he takes maybe relishes in killing some of these people, you're like, those people were so horrible that like, yeah, I'm kind of taking some joy in them being murdered too, because they're just so over the top how bad they are.
didn't Garth? He also did the Boys, right? He wrote the Boys, right?
Yes, The Boys is also him.
Okay, and I heard that's pretty terrible. Is that true?
Yeah, like a lot of people will have this complaint that Garth Ennis's stuff can be too edgy, and I'd say most of the time I disagree. I actually like Preacher a lot. I like his Punisher a lot. Like a lot of his Hellblazer is really good. The Constantine stuff. I like a lot of Garth Ennis stuff, but I think The Boys is the one for me where it's like this does feel so edgy to the point that I'm like not even getting anything out of it.
Yeah, so I heard that's one of the cases where people just go like, "Don't read the comic, just watch the show." With that,
I think the show is a massive improvement over the comic in that case.
okay. Has there been any talks about doing another Punisher game? Any rumors, anything like that?
And not that I've heard, although this almost had a sequel at the time it came out, and I think they were actually teasing Daredevil being like a big part of that sequel. There's some concept art you can actually find online of the kind of canceled second game. I wish they'd gotten to make it, because like I said, I think the gameplay here is smooth. I really like how close it is to the comics. The Thomas Jane's performance for the voice, I think, is really, really damn good. This is kind of a super underrated game. Like it's hard for me to imagine, Punisher being done better than this, except for maybe is like sort of doing it in the same feel and style. Yep, that's the concept art there. But I kind of wish they had gotten to do it, or at the very least something. This would be, I think, a great game to get like a modern remake of.
Who the hell is Zombie Kingpin?
I'm not sure about that one.
What the? So Bullseye. So it looks like is that Bullseye? He survived.
I think that's supposed to be Bullseye, but like part of his body was destroyed in the first game, so like they like cyborgize him a little bit.
I don't know who this is supposed to be.
That's Typhoid Mary is a big Daredevil villain. She actually, do you remember, and Deadpool as well. Do you remember in the Iron Fist show, the woman that was the redhead that had like the multiple personalities? She was sort of kind of one of the big villains. I think she was in the second season of Iron Fist, I want to say.
Oh, I think I do know. That was the woman from Star Trek, right?
Yes. And that was supposed to be an adaptation of the Typhoid Mary character, which again is a Daredevil villain, not an Iron Fist villain. But
okay, gotcha. Yeah, okay, yeah, I do remember her a little bit. Yeah. In that. Okay, interesting there. So they were planning on second. So just funding wise, they didn't get it, or
Yeah, I don't know if it just didn't sell well enough, or I mean, it's it's a pretty violent game, so like maybe it just didn't do well enough with like maybe the younger audience that was playing most games back at the time. I don't know exactly what went wrong there, but I wish they had gotten to do one because, like I said, I mean, I think this game is I'm not really coming up with a whole hell of a lot of negatives about it, other than I think maybe with some age, some of the shooting and sort of the aiming reticle stuff maybe feels like a little janky, but it's also because it's old. It's a 21-year-old game at this point, so I think that's reasonable to give it a little grace on that.
So here it says the reception. So it says the game received mixed reviews criticizing the game's sound effects and the linear and repetitive gameplay, but praising its systems of torture. Its system of torture, the storyline,
In memory of Stanley.
the inordinate amount of violence, and the Punisher himself. So people love that. People love the torture and the violence, and Frank Castle, Thomas Jane Punisher. Okay, so people like that. A Maxim contributor to Gene Newman opined in his review that this game made Grand Theft Auto series look like Super Mario Kart. So you had that. So okay, pretty awesome there. And
I remember playing this as a kid and my dad coming in the room and being like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm cutting this guy's head off." And my dad just being like, "Oh, okay." Just not knowing how to respond.
So this says here the game was profitable for Volition. It says the game sold around 1 million copies. So they do say that here for it. And then this also mentions the controversy you talked about. It says the Punisher features extremely gruesome scenes of torture and gore. In particular, allows the player to directly control the manner and intensity of a captive's suffering during interrogation. Because of this, Volition's vice president of product development, Dan Cermak, consulted with Entertainment Software Rating Board in January 2004, 1 year ahead of the game's targeted release date. The ESRB confirmed Cermak's fears that the early cut of the game showed then would meet its adults-only rating, which severely hampers commercial availability because most retailers will not sell adult-only rated video games. So they had to do that. Okay. So it says the developers rendered the interrogation scenes in black and white in order to reduce their visual impact and adjust the camera so that certain instances of violence can be heard but not seen, and added a penalty for players who needlessly killed victims after they confessed. Oh, that's lame. What was the penalty there? You remember?
I think you just get less points for it. So,
okay,
but you can still get points. Just less points.
Just less points. Gotcha. Okay. So what'll be your final thoughts rating there, man, for the Punisher game?
Man, I think this game's aged really well. I think, I guess maybe one criticism that people had is it can be a little repetitive over the course of the whole thing. You're maybe doing a little bit much of the same. Personally, I didn't even really feel that. Like, I feel like it holds up as well as, say, like the old Max Payne games do. And it's like, yeah, it's an action game. That's what you're doing pretty much the whole time. So I personally, I think that all works. I don't really feel a drag in like the pacing. There's even the cool thing that they do during the level with Nick Fury, where it's like more sniper focused and it's sort of set in like a jungle environment. You kind of leave New York and do this whole interesting thing, and like the way the sniper kind of works feels very different from the rest of the guns. Man, I'm gonna give it a peek. I think this is like pretty much the definitive Punisher video game. Not that there's a lot of other options to pick from, but it does, I think, everything it does really, really well. And I wish this had gotten that sequel, or again, I think this would be a really great game to revisit, do like a remake. And yeah, I like in general, I wish we would get more of these comic book characters in video games. Like we get a few really good ones nowadays, but kind of this period in the early 2000s, X-Men Legends, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the Hulk Incredible Ultimate Destruction. I feel like this Punisher game, there were quite a few of these comic book properties getting done, and I think a lot of the best ones are still from this era. Even though like we get some great ones now, but not nearly in like the volume that we did then.
No. What's your favorite boss fight in the game? Favorite sequence in the game?
So you fight the Russian in your apartment, right? And that's one boss fight. We don't kill him. It's like this island you go to, right? And this is the level with Nick Fury where a lot of it's like sniping sections. And it's sort of like this base of like all these like rogue military soldiers, and that's where you actually have like the full final boss fight with the Russian. And I think that's really, really good because not only do you have to deal with him, you're trying to fight him on a time limit because a nuclear missile is going to go off. Meanwhile, there's like all these henchmen on walkways shooting at you while you're on the ground running around, like trying to get away from the Russian and fight him at the same time. But his skin is bulletproof, so you're basically relying on like environmental damage, like lining him up with like an explosive barrel, shooting the barrel, and then damaging him with the explosion. It's probably the boss fight that employs the most actual like strategy and positioning anywhere in the game. So I think it's really good for that reason. And then I'd say as like a runner-up boss fight too, I think the final boss is actually really good, which is Jigsaw. But Jigsaw is like basically got like an Iron Man suit, like because of the raid earlier in the game on like a Stark Industries building. Jigsaw is basically flying around using like a laser cannon on like the roof of a prison. And that ultimately, you know, sort of is the story twist is that Frank got himself arrested on purpose so that he could kill Jigsaw in this prison because he knew there was like this prison break that was going to happen. But this is also, I think, just you are forced to sort of use cover and play with the environment in a tactical sense in a way that, you know, a lot of the game you can kind of just run through like a Terminator and just sort of gun people down and just kill them without having to worry about getting hit all that much. But there's these two boss fights I think are really good for that. And then this is not a boss fight, but I do want to call out a particular moment in the game. And it is it's when you're fighting the Nucci family earlier in the game, and it's a funeral parlor. And you basically at the end of the previous level, because you've killed one of the sons of this family, Bobby Nucci, and you go all the way through the funeral home, and you go in and you open the casket, you pull his body out, throw it in the trash, get inside, close it, and then at the funeral you like pop up and start shooting all the gangsters that are in like the audience of the funeral. It is perfectly Garth Ennis because it is comically over the top and just kind of awesome to play at the same time. Oh yeah, there you go, that's it.
It's the Punisher!
That dude's just got his hands up. What the fuck? He's not even running.
I don't think they have their guns on him because they were just going to a funeral.
Jesus. Wow. Okay.
That to me is like that is perfect Garth Ennis Punisher, like to a T. I don't think you could get a better adaptation of that comic.
Nice. Okay. So that was your review. So it would be
like absolute peak.
Absolute
I think
peak.
the only negative I could understand is some people maybe feel like it could get repetitive as the levels go on. Personally, I didn't feel that, but I could understand why some people might.
Okay. Interesting there. So he takes the body out. Yeah. Jeez.
Tell the boys that Ma's here.
Should we bring in Bobby's casket now?
Show some respect. Wait till the old lady's seated.
It's a shame I could kill you only once, Bobby.
Yeah, I think he throws him in a trash can.
Rats can hold a little funeral.
I think he doesn't close it either. He doesn't close it all the way. Like if somebody came in there, they should probably see the feet sticking
They're
out.
ready.
Jeez. Oh man. So that's pretty awesome there. So absolute peak for the Punisher 2005 video game there. You still had it? You still had a copy of it? There.
Yeah, it's not the original case, but the disc is in great condition.
I don't know. I guess people could, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, get it on eBay or something like that. If you still had a PlayStation 2, maybe you get it there.
I know. I think you can get it on PC relatively easy. I don't know if it's on Steam or if it's just that you can buy like an old copy of it digitally or something. But I see videos of people playing it with like the black and white like filter taken off, so like you can see all the gore and stuff. So
okay, so you could do that as well there. All right, nice there. So that was your review for Punisher there, video game.